If you were an Academy Award-winning actor, where would you choose to live? And if the town you lived in didn't have a good restaurant, would you buy one?
I could live anywhere. Right. Just timing brought me here, and it's just a great place.
Today, we've got a corner table with actor Robert Duvall, and he's taken us far away from the glitter of Hollywood to the one-horse town of Plains, Virginia, where he lives. We'll sit down with him at the only restaurant in town, his. And we'll learn how to make Robert's mother's famous crab cake recipe.
Actually, she got it out of Reader's Digest and modified it.
Plus, Robert shares some tales from the movie set.
I mean, we're on Godfather, Staten Island, that everybody was mooning everybody.
Mooning.
Oh, it was.
Some interesting stories about life and love.
He said the worst thing in the world for an old man is an old woman.
And why he wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
And I like to be away from L.A., although I like it there a lot. And Virginia is one of the most beautiful states of the world.
We're with actor Robert Duvall at the rail stop in Plains, Virginia. Robert is an Oscar, Emmy, and Golden Globe winning actor, regarded as the best of his generation. His impressive work includes films like The Godfather, The Great Santini, Apocalypse Now, Tender Mercies, Lonesome Dove, and his critically acclaimed directorial masterpiece, The Apostle. And at our corner table, Mr. Duvall has the crab cakes, and I've ordered beef carpaccio, and we're sharing smoked salmon tartare. And Robert Duvall, Bobby, Bob,
whatever
Mr.
you
D,
like.
whatever we want.
Bobby D to it, whatever, yeah.
Bobby D.
And my brothers used to call me Boggs. Boggs, because they couldn't say
Boggs?
Bobby. When I was young, they couldn't say Bobby, so they called me Boggs. Very few people still call me that.
What was that again? What did they call you?
Boggs.
Boggs.
Which is, my brother couldn't say Bob or Bobby, so it was Boggs. And still, certain close friends still call me that.
And that gives you a good feeling, I guess,
Yeah,
when you hear Boggs.
yeah, it's like from the past. You know,
Deep past.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
childhood. Well, you love food.
Yeah, I've always liked good
You
food.
got the great 360-acre farm outside of town, but everybody wants to know, why does a guy who doesn't need to be in the food business buy a restaurant?
Well, you know, Luciana, my lady, my wife, lady, my sweetheart, my wife.
There's a few words to describe her.
She's everything to me. She talked me into it because Tom was such a good chef, and we wanted to keep him in town. And so I said, why not? You know,
And Bob's mother's own recipe for crab cakes is on the menu.
Why is
You
that?
like it okay?
Yeah, I like the crab cake a lot. And I like it so much, I'm taking this piece off the table.
So, when you were a child, this is the recipe your mom made?
She came by, actually she got it out of Reader's Digest and modified it. Exactly, and then I took it over. But we lived in Annapolis, Maryland during the war, and my younger brother would go down to the creek, Spa Creek, and he'd catch like 6 beautiful soft-shell crabs. Then my mother would cook them for the family that night. So, you know, we grew up around the waters of Maryland and Virginia, which you really can't, much better seafood for me than France or Nova Scotia or any place.
People come from all over the world for the Maryland crab cakes.
Absolutely. And in the eastern shore of Maryland, they kind of judge each other the way Italian families would put their pasta against the other family's pasta. You know? So it is, they talk about at the Ivy in L.A. about Louisiana crab cakes. There's no such thing that I know of. It's really native to this area here.
I want to talk about the road to success.
Right.
You're a little kid. When did you first get the feeling that you had this gift, this talent to act?
I was 20 years old in college and wasn't doing well, and my parents kind of pushed me into acting. My father was a professional military, a naval officer.
Right.
So it was at their kind of choice or their suggestions that I kind of
What did
tried
they
my
see?
hand at it. Well, I guess we used to put on skits and.
Well, it wasn't a brand new thing. I mean,
Well,
didn't you and your
I
brother
was pretty
sing?
yeah, we sang songs and did skits, but I was pretty petrified going into it the first time I had to get up at acting class. I mean, it was, wow.
Which is unusual for parents to push somebody in a
Especially
direction
a
of
military
acting.
family.
They must have known something.
Well, it was also that what they knew that if I didn't do this, that I was going to flunk out of college. So it was like an expedient thing. But once I got through it, I really got hooked on it.
Very early in his acting career, Robert lived with fellow starving actor Dustin Hoffman.
We got an apartment, and Gene's told me about this black-haired kid that was going to come to town that would sleep on his floor, and it was Dusty, and he introduced me. So then we all got an apartment uptown.
For you
Dusty,
Gene Hackman?
No, Gene was downtown.
I got it. Well, you know what? Anything in the beginning like that, if you look at your friends from that era of James Caan,
Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman.
I met Jimmy later, but you know, it's like once you do a film and go off, you don't see those guys anymore. I rarely see those guys. It's amazing. Success makes you go different roads and socially and personally and otherwise. And I really don't. After all those years, I worked in Geronimo with Gene Hackman again. They'd say, okay, we talk, quiet, action, and cut, and then we go right back. It's like we took up what we were 25 years ago. And since then, that was four years ago, I think. About John, I haven't seen him again, Gene.
Well, how about going back to the old days in New York? Where do you guys like to go eat? How do you earn a living? I mean, here you are, guys who want to make a career in acting.
Oh, working in the post office, delivering ladies' garments from 10 till 2 in the morning, you know. Any job you could get.
I heard that early on in your career, well, like some play like Major Barber or something like that, you got a bad review. It was so bad.
Oh, it was awful.
You had to get off a bus when you were reading it.
I got sick to my stomach. I mean, I got, and I deserved it. That was an awful night.
What did they say?
One of them said, Shaw has invented some impossible young men in this place, but never one is so revolting as the romantic young interest in this one. And the characters made even less palatable by Robert Duvall, whose spine tends toward a figure S, whose diction is flannel-coated, and whose simpering expressions are moronic.
Out of town! Get me on the next bus.
I mean,
oh, boy. Well, you know,
It couldn't be much worse.
For the person who's watching now, who just got it from their boss,
Right.
or, you know, who really feels low because of somebody laying into them.
Yeah.
What do you hold on to when somebody hits you that hard?
Well, I figured maybe they knew some, but, you know, I had guys like Sandy Meisner had faith in me, and I knew I could do certain things. And, you know, that was all I wanted to do, or figured I would do or could do. Came back and started all over again. I mean, you know, everybody goes through, has a bad time.
Get back on the horse when you fall off. I guess that's basically.
Absolutely.
Movie sets are always crazy. What's the craziest practical joke you played on somebody or somebody played on you from any movie set?
Well,
Anything
I
come to
think it
mind?
was, I don't know, I can't. It's a little bit censored, this show. I mean,
Well, no, we're on cable. You go for it. Let us worry about censoring.
we're on Godfather in Staten Island that everybody was mooning everybody. You
Mooning.
know? Oh, it was like
Who was mooning?
like in the mausoleum out at the cemetery. They're digging the grave. Somebody would jump down and try to get each other from the. We'd always be on guard. Out in Staten Island, Brando went for his belt, I went for my belt, and Coppola said, "No, they're children." So we both mooned everybody. Got the set, and some woman come over and said, "Mr. Duvall, you're great," but she turned to her friend, "But did you catch the on that Brando?" She said. So that was like, we played a joke without even knowing it yet. So somebody gave us both championship belts for mooning.
And coming up, Robert Duvall shares memories of Marlon.
You're a legend. I said, "What you are? You were my hero coming up." And I said, "You know, acting's good." "Oh no, it's boring." He said.
But first, let's go into the kitchen where executive chef Tom Key is going to show us how to make those famous crab cakes. Tom starts with the freshest jumbo lump crab meat, adds eggs, chopped onion, crumbled saltine crackers, and then his spices.
Take about half a teaspoon of dry mustard, half a teaspoon cayenne pepper, half a teaspoon of salt, and a half a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. And then you toss it together lightly and mix it. Try not to break up any of the jumbo lump crab meat.
He forms the crab cakes and then browns them on each side.
After browning them off on each side, we'll put them in the oven. And that way it'll heat them all the way through and keep the egg cooked.
Chef Key plates the finished crab cakes and garnishes with a lemon pepper mayonnaise.
And that's it, Robert Duvall's mother's famous crab cake recipe.
We're in the beautiful farming community of the Plains, Virginia, at the tiny 62-seat rail stop restaurant with its owner, acting legend Robert Duvall. The restaurant has a rustic feel with an understated Western motif in the dining room featuring pictures of its famous owner. The menu is classic American with entrees like grilled jumbo shrimp and pecan-crusted salmon. Our entrees were
Yeah, and Robert Duvall, you've got wisely ordered the New York strip. Which is very tempting. And I've got the pork tenderloin, which is a cumin marinade.
Right.
And I like pork.
Oh, I love pork.
It's beautiful.
I love it, and I can never be a vegetarian.
No. You ever try being a vegetarian?
Never. No, never try. I like good vegetables and good meat, you know, whether it be here, like we were saying before, you know, there's nothing better than a good Texas barbecue, which equals it a good Northern Argentine barbecue. Great.
So
they cook more of the innards and everything down in Argentina.
You love Argentina.
Yeah, oh, it's great.
Bob's love of Argentina grew out of tango dancing as a hobby.
You sure look healthy.
So you always have to have hobbies, and dancing the tango became a hobby, and you have to have a partner, but yet you can lead any woman in it. What I like is more the club tango that's in the clubs, the milongas, and more like your uncles or fathers would dance at a wedding, in a sophisticated way. It's not all the fancy stuff you see on stage. It's a very interior, quiet thing.
Must keep you in shape.
It does. It can, yeah.
What has been, over the years, your fitness routine? I mean...
Oh, well, you know, when I played a lot of tennis, I used to play too, didn't you?
Love tennis.
Yeah, lately I haven't played because, you know, it gets to my knees, but, you know, I think if you have one, I said before, hobby, especially like physical hobbies, I think physical hobbies, that you really consume your time and you try to become as good at as you can.
What about the parts where you had to get in physical shape to be on the screen? Like Colonel Kilgore in Apocalypse Now, Bolt Meacham in The Great
Yeah, well, I
Century.
just played extra tennis, whatever. The older you get, the harder it is, you know, but I mean, you always try to, once again, like when I did Lonesome Dove, I was very live and thin and, you know, hard.
Cowboy.
Yeah, very kind of bandy. And I just started dancing tango then, and here in Virginia, on my level, I was riding a lot of, you know, riding jumping horses, and that with horses and, you know, always doing something physical, and that kind of got me ready. And
people watching the Food Network, you know, have certain food questions in mind. What is it like shooting food scenes in movies? When you're in a movie with...
Well, I'll tell you the worst.
What was the worst?
When I was doing a film in Vienna, Austria, had great world-class pastries there. So I sat down.
Film?
Yeah. The film was 7% Solution. I played Dr. Watson.
Right, Dr. Watson, I remember that.
So I figured I'd take very stylishly take a bite of one of these wonderful pastries, and all day long I would eat this world-class pastry. Well, I ate one pastry, one bite of each, and the first setup, different setups, and the first setup, 26 takes. So I had actually swallowed. So, you know, I was stuck for the day. It was
26,
awful.
like rich Viennese pastry?
Yeah. So it wasn't so rich at the end of the day, about after 1 hour. But usually if I have an eating scene, I'll try to take a bite, I'll chew and chew, and in the back of my mind I know that cut is coming soon. As soon as they say it's cut, they have a waste can. Yeah, right. Exactly. So, you know, because at first you get a little experience, you realize that unless it's just one scene, one master scene, and that's with no coverage, then you can just eat the meal all out. But with a lot of cutaways, you can't keep eating.
Robert Duvall's hero and acting inspiration comes from former co-star Marlon Brando.
I talked to him on the phone about 6 months. I hadn't talked to him in a while. I said, my lady from Argentina wants to meet you because you're a legend. I said, what you are? You're my hero coming up. And I said, you know, acting's great. Oh no, it's boring. He said he doesn't like acting.
He doesn't like acting.
And what about the legendary Brando appetite?
You know, Apocalypse. They say he would go over to Marty Sheen's house and eat. And my friend Jimmy Keene, who's an actor, I always try to help him get parts. He had a small part there. He said he was there when Marlon. You saw him like he'd leave, and he saw this pie sitting in the window. First when they'd served him, he took it all for him. But it was for everybody.
Pie, please.
So then on the way out, he finally sneaked by and took the whole pie and left with it. So he did develop a gargantuan
appetite. What the root of that?
Out of bore. I think it's very self-destructive. A guy of such great talents, just kind of.
That's got to be disappointing. That your hero is in effect renounces his art, is kind of a lazy actor.
That's his problem, not mine.
That's a good point.
That's his problem. Yeah. I mean, I don't find it a demeaning way to make a living.
When we return, the Rail Stop's dessert specials.
How do you describe this?
Creme brulee, coffee, caffeine.
The coffee taste?
Yeah.
And upstairs at the White House.
Farrah Fawcett got up and went to the ladies' room. Within about 20 seconds, President Clinton got up to go to the men's room.
We're in the quaint town of the Plains, Virginia, at the Rail Stop restaurant with actor Robert Duvall. Robert's companion, Luciana, helps run the Rail Stop and also assisted decorating the place. The two always enjoy meals in this special cozy corner. Now back to our special corner table with Robert Duvall.
And we're back with dessert. You're half finished.
I'm a quick man.
Half
Well, the
decimated
train runs
creme
out.
brulee. Yeah.
Yeah, have some. It's like
Before the train leaves the station, how
a
do you describe this?
creme brulee, coffee, caffeine.
The coffee taste?
Yeah.
Well, I've got the pumpkin bread pudding, so jump in, and this is beautiful.
That's what we do with my
Fruit
parents. We used to
rendition,
all.
Now, Luciana, your woman, girlfriend, wife, significant other, best friend, tango partner, helps run the restaurant a little bit, right?
Oh yeah.
She digs in. I heard that she doesn't like it when you have love scenes. Is this true? You have to kiss somebody else?
Well, I did in the apostle, but she just come to the country and didn't speak English well, and she didn't quite get it.
She didn't know what was
I
happening?
was putting my money on the line. I was directing. I was doing everything. I couldn't even take the leading ladies out for dinner. And if I went to the dressing room, she says, "I heard you went into the dressing room. What did you do?" I said, "I'm talking about the movie."
This is when you first came back from Argentina with her?
Yeah, the Latin temperament. I'm very jealous. But she's understanding. She's very smart, very bright.
What do your friends say to you about there's a big age difference between the two of you? This is an interesting thing. You must get this all the time.
Dustin Hoffman says it doesn't make any difference. The best answer in the history of any love affair, I said to Wilford Brimley. He's a very clever guy, Wilford. He used to be a bodyguard for Howard Hughes. You'd love interviewing him.
It does a great oatmeal commercial.
Yeah,
He's
but he's a good actor, though.
Right.
And he sings jazz in clubs with a full orchestra. The guy's a very interesting guy, but I called him up and said, "Wilford, I got this real young girl from Argentina. Some people say, be careful." He said, "Let me tell you something, my friend." He said, "The worst thing in the world for an old man is an old woman." So that answered everything.
Yeah, it sounds as if you turn to the right person for a little counsel,
exactly.
a little consigliere.
I laugh every time I say that.
You ever go to a White House dinner?
I've been to several of them.
Really?
Several of
You
them.
enjoy them? Is it interesting?
It's okay. I went to one that was okay with the ambassador, the president of Argentina. We showed the apostle there.
For the Clintons?
Yeah, the Clintons. I sat here, and he knows that world. They say he's great on his feet in front of black churches. He's extemporaneous speaker. He's excellent. He knows the first Pentecostal church I ever went to was in Arkansas. But, not to cast any kind of judgment or anything, but 20 minutes into the film, Farrah Fawcett got up and went to the ladies' room. Within about 20 seconds, President Clinton got up to go to the men's room. Don't ask me what happened. I know what could have happened.
You were saying before that you had an itinerant life. Your father was retired as a rear admiral in the Navy, grew up here in San Diego. If you had to characterize it, what was the dinner table like at home for you and your brother and your mother and father? When you were about 12 years old, what was the atmosphere like?
It was nice, but sometimes my father, it's a funny thing about a guy like my father. He'd wake up in the morning, have bacon and eggs and a wonderful breakfast with coffee, and he'd be so cheery, my mother would be walking around. But by the end of the day, it would reverse itself. He'd sit at the table whistling, and like my grandmother said, like a little end, "Well, you'll take what I give you." So sometimes there was a little bit of tension there. Yeah. While as in the mornings, it was the other way. But it was fine. It was a nice upbringing. It was a nice background. There was a lot of fun, a lot of sense of humor.
Did you bring?
My mother used to box my father. She put on a hat. She was a real funny. She had wanted to be an actress. She was a clever woman with accents and. So there were good times. There were good times.
Now, if we could fast forward 10 years of your life goes by, my life goes by, 10 years into the future, right? What do you want to be able to say about the 10 years of your life that's passed?
That'll be about the last 10 years of being prolific for me, I think.
Good. Now, do you want to die with your boots on? Do you want to go out working, or do you want to say,
either way?
Is the curtain going to come down and say,
either
Duvall's finished, I'm not working?
Well, yeah, I think you'll know. I think you'll know when that time might come. and even then you might dabble. So I'm not sure. You know, and we can go on in our career a lot longer than athletes can, or whatever, or the average man in any given profession. They retire at a certain age, like my father did. But you know, there's room for longevity in the entertainment business. That if you watch it and take care of yourself and choose wisely, it can endure more than other professions, I think.
Well, you have endured so wonderfully well. This has been an absolute
Thank you. Nice to see you
pleasure.
after all these years.
Pleasure to see you after so
Yeah.
many years now. We have a tradition of closing all of our shows with a
Right.
toast to the viewers.
To the viewers,
Yeah, so I'd like to ask you to offer them a toast, a greeting of any kind.
Yeah, well, just good health. You know, we all have our individual journey from the cradle to the grave. May you have a gracious one and have good food, good health, and good, honest living, and with compassion towards others. Salud.
Robert, Bobby, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for bringing us to the rail stop here in the Plains, Virginia.
Yeah, right.
What a treat to talk to you for.
Good to see you again.